guess everybody can hear me. All right. I would like to welcome our four candidates for the national president's position, and we are going to conduct a question and answer session here for the next few minutes. It's my understanding that the four questions that I think that we will have time to submit to the four candidates were previously sent to them, so we're not really talking about surprising them, and I hope that that's the case, because if it's not, things are going to be a little wild here now. The questions will relate to ongoing NARFE issues, such as NARFE governance, structure, membership, and et cetera, things like that. Now, during the forum, the time limits that I'm going to mention and all comments will be strictly enforced. We have to be fair about this, and we ask that those limits be respected. Each candidate will have 2 minutes for opening remarks to introduce themselves. Then I will ask one of the written questions to candidate number one, and I'll explain who that is in a second. And that candidate number one will have 2 minutes to answer the question. Then the same question will be asked to candidates 2, 3, and 4, and each of them will have 2 minutes to answer the question. A timekeeper that Lynn has already been mentioned will hold up signs to indicate when you have 15 seconds remaining and when you must stop. I will then rotate the order in which the candidates respond to the questions. Now, as Lynn said, there will be no time for the people from the floor, view this as a convention, to ask questions during the forum. But the attendees will have an opportunity to submit questions via the chat box, which will be monitored throughout the forum, but not by me. So I can't control that.
Terry,
yes?
Can I stop you just? There's a couple people that need to turn your video off. Tim, you weren't here when we announced it. While the candidate's on, could you turn your video off? I think he's the only one. Okay. Thank you. Sorry, Terry.
Okay. All right. Well, he can work on that. Let me just continue that. If you submit questions to the chat box, someone else who's monitoring that will review those and see if it's possible. Some of them may be subject to the forum, but we doubt that. And if time permits, the candidates will also have 2 minutes for a closing statement. And any campaign signs, buttons, clothing, any other campaign-related items should not be visible on the Zoom screen. I don't see that's an issue anyway here. Okay. All right. So when we get to the questioning part, we're going to rotate the sequence in who speaks first. I considered starting with people by alphabet, but having the last name of Z, whenever that's happened over the years, I knew where to go when they said put people in alphabetical order. I went to the back of the line. So I picked a slightly different method here. I put the names of the four candidates on the back of one of my NARFE business cards and then turned them over. And then I presented them to my wife, who shuffled them, and then from left to right, she put a 1, 2, 3, and 4. And I thought it was appropriate for her. She is a NARFE member independently. She used to work for the National Labor Relations Board. They conducted elections, so she realizes how important it is to do a fair election. So she ended up picking the order in which we will start with the questioning. Now, I will just use the first order that we're going to use for the introduction. Lynn, do you want me to just have them do an introduction and then follow with the first question? How do you want to have that organized?
Terry, let each of them do the introduction and then ask the questions.
All right. Well, all right. 4 introductions, then start with the questions. Is that what you're saying? Does she agree with me?
Yes.
Okay. All right. All right. So we will start with William Shackelford for his 2 minutes of an opening statement. There he is. I see him.
Yeah. Thank you, Terry. It's my pleasure being here. I'm definitely thankful to the Federation Presidents, and particularly SAGE group for the invitation. I am William Shackelford. I'm currently the Region 10 Vice President, having served in that position by the end of this year. Obviously, when the terms end, it will be a total of 8 years. I had succeeded Bill Martin, and Bill, unfortunately, is no longer with us. So, my source of expertise is somewhat dwindled, if you will. But anyway, I've spent 35 years with the Federal Bureau of Investigation. I was the records officer and archivist in charge of all the historical records for the agency, and it was quite an experience. I have had the opportunity to see, after the fact, if you will, the sites at Waco, Texas, Oklahoma City, New York City, and various places across the country. And unfortunately, it's not a pretty sight when you see some of those things that occurred. My NARFE experience started in 2005. I was joined, I should say, as an active member, active employee at the time, because my wife retired about 18 months ahead of me. My mother needed transportation. She was a NARFE member also. And when she got to her first meeting, my wife signed me up. A couple months later, when I retired, she comes and gets me, tells me we're going to our NARFE meeting. My first question we've all heard before: what's a NARFE? And that's the way it began. And I walked into the meeting as a new member and walked out as the service officer. So that's a story that goes on across the country for many of us. Moved up through the ranks of the chapter and then through the Federation, and now regional vice president. So I'm here and looking forward to the possibility of becoming your national president, and I'm open to any questions at any time. Thank you, Terry.
Thank you, Bill.
Hey. All right, Bill Austin, you're next. And you have to unmute yourself.
Yeah, I was in such a hurry, I lost it. Anyway, back to the screen. I'm Bill Austin, and I would like to be your NARFE National President. I'll tell you a little bit about myself, my background. I'm an Army veteran, a postal employee who started as a letter carrier and retired as a district manager. And I've been active in the association for 28 years. I've held positions at every level of our association, from chapter president to national executive vice president. And I think I'm now ready to serve as your national president. I'm not usually an alarmist, but national trends are troublesome. Membership is down, chapters are closing, national finances are strained, and local politics has left with the closing of chapters. I could tell you about my many positions that were troubled that I've turned around, but just let me say, that is what propelled me into positions at the highest level of the postal management. I do have a plan to reinvigorate NARFE. This is the short version. Reorganize and refocus the federations, especially the legislative program. Negotiate the return of federal union retirees to NARFE membership. We must right-size NARFE financially. Mistakes of the past must be rectified. Increasing dues again is out of the question. I thank you for your consideration. Yield back my time.
Okay, thank you, Bill. Our third candidate is Gary Roundtree.
Yes. I'd like to thank everyone for having me today to participate in the candidate forum. My resume is too extensive to read, but to summarize it, to be short, I have 2 doctorate degrees. I am a graduate of George Washington University and Harvard Business School. You can look on the NARFE Bio website and look at my extensive resume. I have served on various government boards and nonprofit executive boards. I am truly grateful for the opportunity just to be able to answer your questions and lead NARFE into the future with Lean Sigma 6 and Harvard Business School, where I have learned and studied from some of the best CEOs of emerging companies, from Chris Young, CEO of McAfee, Kwasi Thompson, Vice President of GM Cardiac Reconalization Therapies, Medtronics, Chris Berger, Levi Strauss and Company, and various other ones, from Bethany Quam, Group President of Blue, Buffalo, and General Mills. I am truly honored to be before you.
Hey, thank you, Gary. All right, our fourth candidate is John Dowie, Florida. Go ahead, John, and unmute yourself.
Thank you. To answer, Lynn, Donnie is at another facility that's secure, so her image will never appear. I'd like to say I am former military. I have discharges from both the Army and the Navy, and in fact retired with 21 years from the Navy in special operations. That's a combination of mine countermeasures, explosive ordnance disposal, and diving and salvage. I later developed a specialty in mobile inshore undersea warfare, which was our confined spaces that we identified problems and eliminated them. So, I've lived in Hawaii, California, Louisiana, and Arlington, Virginia in relation to military duty. As far as academics go, I have an undergraduate degree, a master's degree, a mobile dissertation on a doctorate. I taught at Murray State University in Murray, Kentucky, at Mississippi State, Starkville, Mississippi, and at Clemson University at Clemson, South Carolina. And I had my first paper published while I was at Clemson, and was for the Institute of Internal Auditors. I have an accounting background. I worked for a public accounting firm in New York City, Arthur Anderson and Company, the 7th largest at the time, and later became the technical director for the National CPA Group, which, if it was all one partnership, would have been the 9th in the United States. And we handled clients such as Dolly Parton, and we also had the Apple Record Company in New York, which is the Beatles record company. I've done work with a lot of government contractors. I took one company to the Amex, and we were Eurotech. Thank you.
Okay, thank all four of you for your opening statements. And so we'll now turn to the questions. Lynn, I intend to read the question to each question to each of the four candidates.
Okay.
Not rely upon anybody remembering what I read. Okay. All right. And I hope maybe they have it in front of them. So we'll start with question number one, and we'll take the candidates in the order that I have them here. And so for the first question, we'll start with William Shackelford. William, here's the first question. And you notice it really is a two-part question. I read as follows. NARFE is at a critical crossroads relative to membership. The last time membership gains exceeded losses was in 1995, resulting in 27 straight years of losses. Since January 1st, 2000, NARFE has lost over 150,000 members. How do you plan to address the declining membership problem? And what are your suggestions for increasing member engagement of both chapter and national only members?
Okay, Terry, I think if I understand it correctly, the last question is the two-parter. Declining membership is something we've got to look at very hard. We need to improve our communication to the agencies, to get the word into the agencies. I know that the excuse has been very common that since 9/11 we haven't been able to get in. Well, we need to figure out a way to get around that and stop using that as an excuse. We do need to get into the agency so that we can talk to the current active employees. And by that, I mean, if we have to go into using the HR people, so be it. We'll figure out a way to make contact with all the HR people. As far as other means, we need to improve our communications. You know, we have never been real good about getting information out to non-NARFE members, and that is something that definitely needs to improve. And again, the second part, as far as engagement of both chapter and national only, we need to improve our own communications with those people. I mean, right now, the excuse out there I hear too many times is that we never hear anything from headquarters. That needs to stop. We need to make sure that headquarters is getting the word out, whether it be through the regionals, vice presidents, federation presidents, through the groups such as we have here, your smaller subgroup of SAGE. All that needs to come into play, and everybody needs to work together and getting that line of communication open so that we're all on the same page across the country, across NARFE as a whole, so that we can move our organization forward. National only members want to be involved. They want to be advised of what's going on, and too many times I think they're left in the dark. So we need to move forward in that direction. So thank you very much.
Okay, Bill Austin, here's the same question. NARFE is at a critical crossroads relative to membership. The last time membership gains exceeded losses was in 1995, resulting in 27 straight years of losses. Since January 1st, 2000, NARFE has lost over 150,000 members. The two-part question, how do you plan to address the declining membership problem, and what are your suggestions for increasing membership engagement of both chapter and national only members?
Well, in my opinion, NARFE reached a critical crossroad about 3 decades ago. Unfortunately, we failed to recognize the fact that our pool of potential members was drastically changing. We were slow to adjust. Decisions to stay the course by politically popular elected officials with little to no experience guiding such a large organization have led us to this point. Well-meaning, dedicated members have also convinced conventions to adopt positions that sound good but have had adverse consequences. We added active to our name. Federal unions saw this as a threat to their official standing, and they retaliated. This is where we used to get our members. We must negotiate the return of those lost members. We have to try to convince the federal unions that we can do a better job of protecting their retirees. We can point out that strength is in the numbers, maybe negotiate a special associate membership for retirees, and we must expand headquarters to attract new members. In my opinion, we're reaching the point of no return. We can't turn this ship without sacrifice. It will take our entire leadership committed to change if we are to repair this sinking ship. If you're with me,
15 more seconds.
We can adjust course, but please realize time is running out.
Okay, thank you, Bill. Gary Roundtree, question number 1. NARFE is at a critical crossroads relative to membership. The last time membership gains exceeded losses was in 1995, resulting in 27 straight years of losses. Since January 1st, 2000, NARFE has lost over 150,000 members. How do you plan to address the declining membership problem, and what are your suggestions for increasing member engagement of both chapter and national only members?
Thank you there, Terry, for the question. I'm going to try to move through this as fastly as possible with the 2 minutes that I got. As the organizational leader, I will become the beacon, the architect, and the catalyst. I will set the vision and I will communicate the direction, and I will influence through other managers, generate organization alignment, and drive innovation, and I will engineer change. I will assess the external context in which our organization operates and its impact. I will develop a direction for each division, unit, and organization. I will inform everyone of the analysis of the external context. I will provide the contextual intelligence where I am gasping, discerning, and adopting and responding, creating a plan of action to lead NARFE in the future. Many leaders that we have had come to become president failed in this contextual analysis. They failed grasping what a leader must discern. A leader must focus and must understand the factors that are important to significant growth. Factors will shape the company's future. With each factor in forces, it will require action from the organization it is supposed to be thriving and the significance of the leadership. Using my vision, my purpose, my strategy, and my Lean Six Sigma skills, I will identify to craft the direction of the organization throughout all 50 U.S. states and territories.
Thank you, Gary. Okay. Finally, John Dowie, question number 1. NARFE is at a critical crossroads relative to membership. The last time membership gains exceeded losses was in 1995, resulting in 27 straight years of losses. Since January 1st, 2000, NARFE has lost over 150,000 members. How do you plan to address the declining membership problem, and what are your suggestions for increasing member engagement of both chapter and national-only members?
Here's a iPhone. 2 days ago was the 15-year anniversary of the introduction of the iPhone. I want to get an app so NARFE is with people all the time and can cross the borders into any agency with a member of NARFE, and he should have available, or she, ways to show them our webcasts, have an application for NARFE and other things. We have 2 applications already, one for responding to Congress and one for FedHub, where we're communicating amongst ourselves. But we need another application where we can show what's available to non-members. We need to give our members something that they've got. We should also consider merging with other organizations. Maybe we'll have to expand the size of NARFE and bring in other groups so we can have a better base. Maybe, even though I didn't consider it as much, maybe we need to start a C3 organization so people in the silent generation can leave their estate to NARFE to do further education and outreach. We have to consider partnering with other organizations that maybe have things that younger members are interested in, such as national child care. We have things for people going and retiring, but we don't have people in the workforce that they have great problems they have to resolve. Maybe we need to offer more pet care as an insurance policy. There's other things we can do to reach out to our
15
members
seconds, John.
and give them things at their fingertips where they can see how well NARFE can serve their needs. Thanks.
Okay, all right. Those are the 4 responses to question number 1. Now we'll move to the second question, and we're going to start with Bill Austin. Now this one appears to have 3 questions embedded in it, so listen carefully. Question number 2, the executive director position at NARFE headquarters is currently vacant and members have questioned the need for an executive director. What is your take on the need for an executive director to perform the same or similar duties previously performed by the executive director? Then, do you envision changing the roles and responsibilities of the position to be more of an office manager responsible for day-to-day operations of NARFE headquarters? And third, shouldn't the national president and national secretary treasurer be responsible for the operation of NARFE? Bill.
Well, in my opinion, the position of executive director is essential to NARFE's future. Presidents, some with little or no executive experience, will come and go. Just when presidents are learning the job, their term ends. But an outstanding director could last for decades. The first attempt to hire a director may have come up short, but believe me, we still need the stability that that position can provide. The key is to properly utilize the position. The director should be in total control of headquarters, in effect, the CEO. The president should only act as the chairman of the board. Now, I'd have a little different selection criteria. First of all, there would be no long-term contract. The person selected would serve at the pleasure of the board. We should look for someone with confidence and successful experience. There was another problem with the selection process. The board was apparently dazzled more by educational degrees than experience. It's great when you can have both, but if not, I would suggest we go with experience. The board must also set realistic goals and hold the director accountable. I encourage you not to give up on the concept because the first hire did not produce the desired results. In my opinion, it wasn't the position. It may have been the person, or more
15
likely,
seconds, Bill.
the conflicting duties. Again, the position, in my opinion, is critical for the stability of NARFE. Thank you.
Thank you, Bill. All right, question number 2 to Gary Roundtree. Here it is. The executive director position at NARFE headquarters is currently vacant, and members have questioned the need for an executive director. What is your take on the need for an executive director to perform the same or similar duties previously performed by the executive director? And do you envision changing the roles and responsibility of the executive director to be more of an office manager responsible for day-to-day operations of NARFE headquarters? Shouldn't the national president and national secretary treasurer be responsible for the operation of NARFE?
Yes, sir. Thank you, Terry, for the question. Let's separate two things. The president is the CEO. The president is the one that sets the vision. He is the one that sets the scale and the scope of leadership. The executive director is a manager. Anyone that comes into the role of a new leadership role must unlearn what they have previously learned and allow room for personal growth and development in areas that are needed when you're coming into a new role. When people come to the executive director or to the president, you have to understand the many things that are involved in scale and scope and being the beacon and the catalyst and the architect. The executive director is a manager. They require hands-on and interaction with each of the employees and the staff. The president is the visionary. His job is to use the vision, use the purpose, use strategy, and identify many things to craft a statement of direction, apply techniques to communicate, direction to every level of the organization, evaluate the effectiveness of the executive director, and also assess our organization's capacity to deliver on key tasks that creates value, diagnosis and solve for challenges with organization motivation, competence, and coordination to drive value creation. We often apply people that think what got them here to this level will work for the new position. That is a false concept.
Time's up.
The top CEOs have said.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Gary. All right, John Dowie. Here's the question. The executive director position at NARFE headquarters is currently vacant and members have questioned the need for an executive director. What is your take on the need for an executive director to perform the same or similar duties previously performed by the executive director? Do you envision changing the roles and responsibilities of the position to be more of an office manager responsible for day-to-day operations of NARFE headquarters? Finally, shouldn't the national president and national secretary treasurer be responsible for the operation of NARFE?
First, let me admit my bias. Since I was on the executive director search committee and helped choose the executive director, and on the strategic planning committee, because the original idea came from the FON committee. When the FON committee proposed it, the staff of NARFE was much larger. So conceptually, it was a good thing to do. When the executive director left, I would have, if I were president, I just would have assumed the duties of the executive director myself. In business, you have to do more than one thing. And for a staff of 40, you can be the president and the CEO of the staff as well. As our size of staff declines, somebody such as our Johan could fulfill the duties for the most part of some of the things the executive director was doing. Some of the things the executive director was doing should have come to the president and the national secretary treasurer. She wasn't a good team player, and part of our problem too, I didn't realize when we were going through with this, that we didn't give the tools to the president and the national secretary treasurer to manage her correctly. When I came to NARFE previously, we had a problem with an IT provider. Having been in the Washington environment a while, I brought in a well-known legal firm. It helped solve the problem very quickly. And I found that the contract with the executive director,
15 seconds.
thank you, might have been resolved more quickly if we had a strong legal firm that was available and experienced in this realm of management.
Time's up.
So, thank you.
Thank you, John. All right. Same question to William Shackelford. The executive director position at NARFE headquarters is currently vacant and members have questioned the need for an executive director. What is your take on the need for an executive director to perform the same or similar duties previously performed by the executive director? Do you envision changing the roles and responsibilities of the position to be more of an office manager responsible for day-to-day operations of NARFE headquarters? Shouldn't the national president and the national secretary treasurer be responsible for the operation of NARFE?
Thank you, Terry. Like John Dowie, I have bias. I was also on the search committee and I was the co-chair of the FON committee that brought this whole thing forward in the very beginning. So going back to what happened in 2013 to 2017 when this first started, we can go back and forth forever and waste everybody's time as to whether the search committee made the right decision. But moving forward, we need to have somebody that is capable of running the inside part of the building, inside staff, inside operations within the headquarters building. possibly a hybrid type between an office manager and executive director. They're very two distinct type positions, so we maybe need a hybrid type. And in terms of contract, we need to have no contract, or at the very least, if it becomes necessary, a 1-year type contract. Virginia is an at-will state. We need to have one person only that is responsible for management of that office manager / executive director, and that would be the national president. Being an at-will state, then if the individual, it appears, is not doing the job, we do not have to make excuses. We just dismiss him or her and move on to our next individual. So but yes, we do need an individual in the position to assist with and actually take over the operation within the headquarters building. So thank you.
Okay, so we'll move on to question number 3 now. And for that, we'll start with Gary Roundtree. All right, Gary, here's the question. And let's see. Looks like it has 2 parts to it. So listen carefully. As a result of continuing membership losses, NARFE's operating revenue continues to decrease. One of the ways to make up some of the membership dues losses is increasing non-dues revenue. What are your plans for increasing non-dues revenue? Also, how do you plan to reduce operating expenses?
Thank you there, Tarek. Appreciate the question. I plan to generate a 3-year value creation plan for every department and unit of our organization. I plan to align our organizational architect to this 3-year value creation plan. I plan to perform a root cause analysis in partnership with others in our organization and generate an action plan to address these findings on the loss of non-dues revenue. I will increase our networking activities. I will share my action plan with my peers in the course and receive feedback. I will reflect on learning path tools, assessment results, and identify opportunities for growth. I will reflect on key initiatives within our organization and analyze their effectiveness using the change model. I will use Lean Six Sigma, a step-by-step process, defining the issue, measuring the issue, analyzing the collected feedback, the data. I will use improvements and put controls in place to make sure the plan is performing the way that the plan was implemented. And I will grasp the contextual intelligence of leading in business by understanding what a leader must discern with forces and factors that are most important and significant.
15 seconds.
To shape the company's future.
Okay, thanks, Gary. All right, question number 3 to John Dowie. John, as a result of continuing membership losses, NARFE's operating revenue continues to decrease. One of the ways to make up some of the membership dues losses is increasing non-dues revenue. What are your plans for increasing non-dues revenue? Also, how do you plan to reduce operating expenses?
I'm formerly a certified government financial manager. That was something started by the Association of Government Accountants. You had to pay a fee, you had to take a test, and the requirement is for 80 hours of continuing professional education every 2 years and to pay your ongoing registration fee. And guess who provides most of the education and collects the fees? The Association of Government Accountants. Perhaps we can do the same thing for NARFE. Maybe we can do something for people wanting to get into government service, but not really understanding the breadth of things that are available to them. We could have a part of the course on conjunction with OPM, a part of the course on what the retirement system is and what benefits it offers, and then start going through the multiple agencies that are available to new members of, or new people that would want to come into workforce of government, and give some kind of certification to it at the end. Maybe we can pick out something in the line of postal employees that we could give a course and get a certification that they could use on an ongoing basis. I'm not sure, because we have so many dispersed agencies among our membership, it'll be hard to do, but it's worth looking at. I know you're going to hate the next one, which is perhaps we can reduce the RVPs. When I came into NARFE, we reduced the number of resident officers from 4 to 2, and we just kept going. But we never have decreased the number of regions, and we still have 10. Well, we had 10 when we had 500,000 people, and now we have 150,000. We should consider reducing the number of regions sooner rather than later. Thank you.
Okay. And
I'm the only one left.
Bill Austin, right? Just gonna make sure, checking here. All right, question number 3, Bill.
You got me already.
As a result of continuing membership losses, NARFE's operating revenue continues to decrease. One of the ways to make up some of the membership dues losses is increasing non-dues revenue. What are your plans for increasing non-dues revenue? Also, how do you plan to reduce operating expenses?
Well, as for non-dues revenue, first I was served for 2 years without a salary. That will save in excess of $200,000. Next, we have to decide what to do with our headquarters building. It is a multi-million-dollar asset. Headquarters has 4 floors with only 40 employees. I don't think we should rush to sell before exploring the possibility of finding suitable clients to lease space. Business rentals in the area of headquarters is certainly lucrative. Once the building is gone, dollars from the sale will soon be gone too. I would interview every employee to gather cost-saving ideas. Active communication where the rubber hits the road has always brought good results for me. I will assign projects to start the restructuring process. High on the agenda is to identify duplicated effort and eliminate it. RVPs must carry more of the workload. This will free Federation resources to concentrate on their primary mission. Since so many chapters have closed, federations have got to pick up the workload of local politics. I will always be open to ideas from this committee and other chapters and Federation presidents. Thank you.
15 seconds.
Okay, thank you, Bill. All right, now we move to question number.
Excuse me, Terry. May I have the opportunity to answer question 3? I did not have the opportunity.
Oh, where are we here?
Forgive me, Bill. I gotta go.
I'm not sure what we're doing here now. All right,
Well,
Bill.
okay, Terry. I would save you some time
Bill.
there.
All right, Bill Shackelford.
You don't have to reread the question. I know non-dues revenue is key to keeping NARFE going. We need to look at various aspects of it. We need to ask the communications department to explore different possibilities of increasing advertising in the magazine so that we can move forward that way. I know we've already are starting to gain some non-dues revenue through the use of advertising on FedHub, and that needs to continue. As far as the number of RVPs, possibly a reduction is utmost, but at the same time, we also need to look at whether or not we actually need to be paying them an annual salary as compared to just possibly covering their operating expenses. That is something that would have to go before the membership. I realize that, but it's something that we should be considering in terms of possibly dropping that as an operating expense. I think if we put in strong guidelines for what a RVP would be paid for what they do, then maybe we can save some money that way. The building, we need to resolve that and resolve that as quickly as possible. Whether we sell the building, become a landlord and rent part of it back, or just go out and find a client that'll take the whole thing, all that needs to be resolved. And then we need to find appropriate space for our staff, and also explore, I should say, the possibility of a teleworking hybrid in-office staff, so that we can reduce costs that way in terms of actually needing as much space as we have now. Even for the 40 plus people that we have more space than we need, and we won't necessarily have that much space if we consider if we consider the telework concept. Thank you, Lynn, and I will stop.
Okay, thanks. All right. Moving on to question number 4, and if this complicated chart I have here, I'll see if I can follow it. All right, so question number 4, we're going to start with John Dowie. John, here's the question. This looks like it has 2 parts to it as well. Since passage of one member, one vote, national only membership now comprises a little over 50% of NARFE's membership, with some federations approaching a much higher percentage of national only member versus chapter members. What changes, if any, do you believe need to be made to the duties and responsibilities of the federations? Further, some have suggested that the current chapter structure should be changed to congressional district chapters, that is CDC. How do you envision transitioning to a CDC structure? What factors should be considered?
Unfortunately, I don't see us going to congressional district chapters. As was pointed out, I know Dorothy Cresswell's chapter has 6 districts coming through it. My chapter's got 2. They change all the time, and depending on the meeting of the state congresses and now the courts. So, and I don't see the skill set of somebody who's a chapter president, and all of a sudden you say, well, now you're a congressional district liaison, them appreciating that, or they'll look at it as another responsibility. And I know out in the western states, and I believe in California, of 56 congressional regions or districts, they only could ever get 41. So it's just an impossible kind of task. So I wouldn't envision that happening. As far as the Federation, Ed Konis and Jesse wrote a very good paper, and it was improved by a procedure in 2018. It's essentially tried to streamline the operations of a federation. To me, guys, you just have too many positions and too many responsibilities. And with COVID, it changed everything. So there's 3 essential positions that Ed and Jesse outlined, which I believe are true: the president, the treasurer, and the congressional liaison. The congressional liaison is the most important of the 3 and has to be maintained in the state.
15 seconds.
You have to be able to go in and tell your congressman, I represent so many federal employees, and we want to talk about this problem. You can double hat the president and the treasurer of an administrative neighboring federation or even the headquarters. Thanks.
Okay. Not overlooking you, we move to William Shackelford.
Yeah, I'm still here.
Question number 4. Since passage of one member, one vote, national only membership now comprises a little over 50% of NARFE's membership, with some federations approaching a much higher percentage of national only member versus chapter members. What changes, if any, do you believe need to be made to the duties and responsibilities of the federations? Further, some have suggested that the current chapter structure should be changed to congressional district chapters, CDC. How do you envision transitioning to a CDC structure? What factors should be considered?
Okay, just want to be sure you were finished. You have these long questions, Terry.
I didn't write any of them.
Transitioning is going to be complicated. We have areas where we have chapters that take in I know my home chapter takes in 3 congressional districts here in Northern Virginia, and that's quite a territory, if you will. But we have areas outside the country. You know, for example, John from Hawaii was telling me they've got all those islands and they've got only 6 congressional districts, but it's not something that's going to be easy for any one person to cover. So instead of possibly a CDL, we maybe need to look at something, a local advisory team coordinator type position, so that we can begin moving forward. We have pockets in this country, and I know I have a pocket in Kentucky that has no chapters. So we have members down there that have little or no representation in terms of the Federation. So we need to improve that communication and get things going. Difficulty, it changes every 10 years with the census, and that's something we also have to examine. And one thing's for certain that I have said many times over, one size does not fit all. You know, we have to continue to move forward. We have to keep talking about it. We have to look at everything. We can't just throw out a plan and say, this is what's going to stick to the wall and move forward. We have to look at it and look at what's best for the organization. Chapter, CDL, combos, all CDLs, you know, something's got to give. But with chapters closing as rapidly as they are, we need to look at future improvements for the whole situation to ensure that our advocacy department or our advocacy program does not suffer. Thank you.
Okay, Bill Austin, here's the question. Since passage of one member, one vote, national only membership now comprises a little over 50% of NARFE membership, with some federations approaching a much higher percentage of national only members versus chapter members. What changes, if any, do you believe need to be made to the duties and responsibilities of the federations? Further, some have suggested that the current chapter structure should be changed to congressional district chapters, CDC. How do you envision transitioning to a CDC structure? What factors should be considered?
Okay. You know, the one member, one vote is a catchy term, which sounded great, actually, to fix a perceived problem of delegate proxy voting integrity. However, a side effect has been that it diluted the power of the chapters and the federation to influence NARFE's direction. Unfortunately, or fortunately, depending upon your perspective, the trend toward national-only members is NARFE's future. The metamorphosis is already in high gear. We must now deal with the hand we have been dealt. Federations of necessity must find a new reason to exist. Supporting chapters alone will not be enough. With the loss of chapters, we've also lost our local political asset. I propose that federations accept those duties. And in doing so, legislative contact officers, in my opinion, are the federation's way to remain viable in the future. LCOs must get close to congressional staff. Take them out, take them some donuts, I don't care. Become their friend. They are the avenue toward getting our message to the representative. The LCOs can also provide federation interaction with the chapters. As for the congressional district chapters, at the rate we're losing chapters, we will be fortunate to keep one chapter per district. Realigning chapters at this point to congressional districts will just be busy work, in my opinion.
Time up.
right on time.
Yep.
Thank you, Bill. Okay, the last one, Gary. Question number 4. Since passage of one member, one vote, national-only membership now comprises a little over 50% of NARFE's membership, with some federations approaching a much higher percentage of national-only members versus chapter members. What changes, if any, do you believe need to be made to the duties and responsibilities of the federations? Further, some have suggested that the current chapter structure should be changed to Congressional District Chapters, CDC. How do you envision transitioning to CDC structure? What factors should be considered?
Yes, thank you there, Terry, for the question. First, starting off, I am a diehard chapter and federation supporters. I do not see NARFE moving to CDLs. But let us understand the environment, if I might use the word preferential vision. You know, we have to identify challenges at every level in chapters and federations. And we have to identify opportunities for them to grow. We have to scan and identify the landscape, understand conditions and forces that form and shape our organization, sort of like water and weather of the organization that it bathes in. First, we need to do the necessary homework, learn the differences and additional processes in practice in our organization and focus on the customer needs. Second, we need to communicate effectively, delegate tasks assigned to team members, federations, and chapters to collect vital factors and relevant cultural difference of our NARFE product, widely preferred in our, in our markets of federal employees. Third actions, getting buy-in from our teams through collaborations and our partners, energizing everyone working on this task. Attitude mindset must be optimism. I will illuminate a path forward, inspiring the desired behavior that is needed to move our NARFE organization forward.
15 seconds.
Lastly, explore the value of learning from our past mistakes or failures to develop a culture of innovation. Thank you, Dan Terry.
Okay, thank you, Gary. Okay, Lynn,
Yes.
that completes the question and answer period for all 4 questions. And I note, if you count up, there were actually 9 separate questions contained within those 4 general questions. So our candidates had a real task now. According to my notes, if there's time, candidates would have 2 minutes for a closing statement. Do we have that, or are we?
Yeah, we got time. We
You
got
do?
time. Yeah.
Okay, well, I say then we start with William Shackelford again to give a 2-minute closing statement.
Thank you, Terry. The key to moving NARFE forward is going to be all of us working together. You know, on my campaign, I've always said that together we will be the ones moving NARFE forward, and that's the key. We have to be together. And if I may, Lynn, quoting from the email that was the cover to the questions, that when you sent them out to the 4 candidates, you said that the hosting the forum is just proof that the Federation presidents were stepping outside of your comfort zone in sponsoring this event. Well, ladies and gentlemen, you need to step outside your comfort zone. All of us do. We have gotten too comfortable with what we've been doing for the past 101 years. And we need to change. We need to start thinking outside the box, whatever term you want to use. Stepping outside comfort zone, outside the box, I don't care. But we have to move our organization forward. Otherwise, there will be no organization. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Shackelford. Bill Austin, your closing statement.
Okay. My friend Mike Horman, past treasurer of NARFE, offered several suggestions and concerns about my candidacy for national president. My response to Mike may answer some of your questions. Thank you, Mike, for your guidance. My strategy is to send the message that business as usual is no longer acceptable. I will be in DC when needed. One of those times certainly will be to address Congress. You and I know that's not an everyday occurrence. The first board meeting will be in person at headquarters. I need to take a couple of days to meet and interview the staff. I will then need a couple of days to discuss my plans with the board. I will be in a big hurry to get my plans moving. As for attending the national convention, and I hate to throw cold water on it, but I believe that it's a little too early to put the pandemic in the rearview mirror. Flying members from all over the USA together in close quarters is still a little too risky for me. I have the skills and experience to lead NARFE to a better, more secure future. For several decades, others have continually tried and prove, and true, it hasn't worked. If you're willing to change and believe that my ideas have merit, then vote for Bill Austin, and I will appreciate your
15
consideration.
seconds.
Thank you.
Gary Roundtree, your turn.
Yeah, thank you there, Terry. For over 25 years, I have been serving on government boards and nonprofit boards in leadership. Optimism personifies me as an individual, and I am one who believes NARFE is working towards a better future. I value the Federation's chapters, members, and teams' contributions made to NARFE over the 100 years it has been in existence to achieve our goal. First, we must understand that the one shoe approach will not work at all in this new leadership role that none of us that are currently running have ever served in. Even if I am doing the right thing, I had previously done as a leader, as a regional 2, I will have to change my leadership guiding principles to be better at shifting challenges. The leader oftentimes assumes they should have all the answers. Leaders don't have all the answers. There are 5 dangers that a leader must consider. He must recognize that they are no longer the authority in a specific area where they once held expertise. The leader must remain deeply involved in specific areas. The leader must jump into the discussion and must use their words in a profound way that heavily influence the members and the staff and employees to align with NARFE vision and goal. And leaders must have a preferential vision
15
and
seconds.
reservation in providing their own perspectives for fearing of being wrong. Meaning a leader must hold himself accountable and be transparent. Thank you.
John Dowie.
As a graduate of the New Jersey Institute of Human Relations, if I'm elected president, I intend to make myself a little bit of a pain in the neck. As my mother said, I moved you up. I want to get started right away. So I wouldn't wait until 1 January to start organizing among the new RVPs. We have to get things done now and get started to get things done. And I realize I'm talking to the marathon people of NARFE. Everyone I'm speaking to, I realize how much dedication and time and effort you have all put in. The Federation Presidents, past and present members of the NEB, including Catherine and Ken, the CAB members, past and present. You expend a lot of energy and effort, and I want to make things easier for you. I'd appreciate your vote. And I hope if I'm not elected, everybody steals my ideas and makes it happen. Thank you.
Hey, thank you, John. Okay, Lynn, I'm turning it back to you now.
Okay. It is now almost 4:20. We really don't have time for questions that were submitted via the chat. We will send those questions to the candidates, and hopefully they will respond to us, and we will send those things out. But thank you, Bill and John, and two Bills, both of Bills and Gary, for taking time out of your schedule today to share with us your thoughts on the questions that we have submitted. We greatly appreciate it. And you will find that your Federation presidents, no matter who's selected as the national president, the Federation presidents can make it happen out in the field for you. So again, thanks. And everybody can now turn their videos back on for the next portion of the meeting.